All right, guys, if you've been following along, I just finished installing 3,220 watts of solar on the roof of my fifth wheel. And usually the first question I get asked the most is, how's it performing? And my goal was really with this thing is so that I can be running one AC pretty much whenever I want and not have to worry about it. So if you want to find that out and all the other details about why I chose what I did and how it's working, stick around, check it out. I'm Chris, this is the Salty Trips channel, and we do full-time RV living, trucks, travel, towing, RV life, solar, off-grid stuff. And so welcome if you're new, and we'll kind of give you a little summation of what got us to this point. Well, we installed two Victron inverters in parallel, 3,000 VA each, so that's 6,000 VA, which is 4,800 watts that I can use all day long throughout the entire RV. And we got 4 lead time 24 volt 200 amp hour batteries, and that's 800 amp hours total of 24 volt. And if you're not familiar with 24 volt and versus 12 volt, it's the same amount of power as 1600 amp hours of 12 volt. So we have both those inverters and all those batteries to power them. Now we needed something to replenish those batteries when we use them. So then we started out with 2,500 watts of rich solar 250 watt panels. We did 10 of those, series of 5, and 2 in parallel. And the reason I went with those is you've seen all these people, you know, they put these 200 watt cookie cutter panels up on their roof. And what do they have on each side of it? A little bit of space. And it seems like that was kind of like a waste of space for me. When I saw they came out with these 250 watt panels and they fit perfectly, basically, you know, almost to the edge of the RV up, and they give you, you know, about 2 inches of clearance next to the air conditioners. I'm like, I could fit those down the sides and get an extra 50 watts per panel. With 10 of those, I can get 2,500 watts. And with 12 200 watt panels, I'd only get 2,400 watts. I'm still getting more power out of my 10 panels that you would out of 12 200 watt panels. I figured it would be a better use of space when I was just trying to figure out where I wanted to put stuff and how much I wanted to get up there. And I wanted to get as much as I could. But here's the kicker. My wife and I talked, and we decided, you know, because we did have a issue with the roof and we had to repair it. So I wanted to make sure we can walk up and down the roof, we can clean it, and we can make any repairs, but I can still get to both air conditioning units. I can reach all the slide outs. So we made a whole video installing those things up there, and I will link that down in the description area below in case you guys are interested in seeing that install. But that's why we chose those rich 250 watt panels. But I will leave a link for those on Amazon over here or down in the description area below in case you want to get those. I've already done a video about how well those things are working and how much solar I'm getting. Well, we did those tests on the 2,500 watt panels. We noticed that, you know, because up here we get some shade early in the morning and we don't actually start getting full sun till almost noon. You know, at max, we were getting 2,000, 2,100 watts of solar out of our 2,500 watt panels, which is kind of expected. You're not going to get 100% unless you just have the perfect angle, it's the right time of year, and all the stars align. And when we're running one AC and like the TV, the internet, the fridge, all the regular stuff, you know, the lights, all that jazz, we were pulling about 1,700 watts an hour ish. And then if we were getting a little less than that most of the time early on, and then even when we were getting close to like 1,800 watts, it still wasn't enough to break even, because you have to remember the inverters, which are 2 of them, are taking a certain percentage of that to convert. So even though we're using 1,800 watts and we're pulling in 1,800 watts, they're still using more from the battery, because that conversion from DC to AC wattage. And so that's with one AC running. And my goal was really with this thing is so that I can be running one AC pretty much whenever I want and not have to worry about it. In the summer, when it's really hot here in Florida, both ACs are running from about noon till almost 5 o'clock constantly. But in the fall, winter, and spring, usually only one AC is ever running at a time, and it's usually not for super long. So as long as I can get enough power to run one AC and put a little bit of juice back into the batteries, that was really kind of my goal with this next array. When I was thinking about it, I wanted to make sure that I got something that, okay, I only needed about 400 more watts. And then I would be over what I'm using with one air conditioner, and I'd be pumping stuff back into the batteries at the same time. So I would pretty much never be pulling more than I'm using. So we went on Amazon, we started looking, and measurements were kind of important because when we looked on the roof, we were like, I want to be able to leave at least this much space to walk by, because the only place that we can really put them is down the center. And there's one little spot on the corner down here that I need to put in, but I want to be able to walk around that air conditioning to be able to service it and to get to the slide out. Those were the conditions. And we started looking at, 100-watt panels. And if I got 4 of those, and let's say I'm only getting 50% of power, I'm only getting 200 watts. That's not enough. I want more than that. I started looking at 150-watt panels, and most of those were either just they were long and skinny, which gave me enough room for walking down this way, but when you put one in front of the other, they were either too long, or the panels that we're looking at were either too fat and they were short but too fat, so that I couldn't walk by them. And so after looking and looking, we found these Richete, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right, but we found these on Amazon, and they were only 23 inches by about 50 inches. So after we found those, I took some measurements and went up there, and it looked like it was going to fit perfectly. So I ordered 4 of those. Those are 180-watt panels, supposedly. So at max, a little 720 watts. And if I'm only getting half of that, I'm still getting over 350 watts. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. I want to be able to get at least half of that for most of the day. If I can get more, that's fantastic. But if I can get at least half of what I can get from these panels, like earlier in the mornings and later in the afternoons, that's still going to give me the 400 watts that I was looking for. So we went and installed 4 of those things on the roof. I did a whole video about that. I'll link that down below too, in case you guys want to check that out in the description area. So now we have 3,220 watts of solar panels on the roof. And now we're going to get down to the question, what everybody wants to know. Well, how well are these things working? And is it doing what you wanted it to do? We're going to go over some numbers. All right. So some of these are going to be, you're going to see some with the grid connected, some without the grid connected, because sometimes I would disconnect the grid so that it would drain the battery, so the solar would charge. Because like if your batteries are at like 100%, they're not going to charge. You're not going to see nothing. They're just going to shut down once the batteries reach the level they're supposed to. So you got to drain the batteries a little bit. Sometimes it's connected, sometimes it's not. Just kind of ignore what's going on as the power usage. We're just going to really try to focus on how much solar we're getting from each array. So here, in this case, we are looking at, it's a few minutes after noon, and we're already getting 1,800 watts. Oh, and here, look, you see a cloud going by. It dropped down to 1,300 now, 14, and now it's going back up to 1,700. Probably a little cloud just went by real quick. And 1,700, so we're looking at 1,470 watts from the 250 watt panels, and we're looking at a little over 400, about 440 watts from the new 180 watt panels, which is about 70%, and you're looking at 1,700 watts, which is about 70-80% of the 250 watt panels. Now we're up to almost 2,000 watts, and it's just a little bit after noon. So that's plenty good. At 2,000 watts, I can run one AC, my internet, my computer, the refrigerator, the TV, and one air conditioner, the lights, one air conditioner, and it'd be pulling all the energy from solar, and I'd be putting energy back, a couple hundred, 200 or 300 watts back into the batteries at that point. All right, here's another day, and this is about, 1:22 in the afternoon, and we're getting about 2,300 watts, almost 2,400 watts. We hardly have anything coming from shore that's assisting, and we're putting 1,100, 1,200 watts back into the batteries. But I wish I would have done this one with the shore power off so you can see exactly how much is being used, because it's only one air conditioning running at the moment, because you can see leg 1 and leg 2 when I'm plugged in shore power. But 2200 watts, a little over that. So, and that seems like the sweet spot is between 1 and 3 o'clock. All right, now we save the best for last. Okay, this is probably the best I've seen so far, is 2634 watts right there. That's the max I've seen, and I'm getting 520 watts out of the 120 watt panels, and 2200 watts out of, a little over 2200 watts out of my 250 watt panels, which is probably over 90%, almost 90%, 95% of capacity for the 250 watt Roach solar panels. And we just lost some solar there a little bit. It dropped down, and it's back up 2600, almost 2700 is only 500 shy of maxing out. And here's the thing, guys, I don't ever expect this system to max out at 3220 watts. I just want to make sure that I had enough that where if I'm only getting a certain percentage, because everything just depends on the angle of the sun, if you're getting a little bit of shade, is it early in the afternoon or later in the day, you still want to maximize as much power as you can. So as that sun's going over, you know, I may be only making, you know, at 10 o'clock, 1300 watts, but that's pretty darn good. And then for the hard part of the day, that's noon to like 5 o'clock, that's when it's the hottest and the most sun's directly on the RV and the ACs are running the most. That's when I'm getting the most power. And I'm not having to use power from the batteries. As long as I got sun and there's no rain clouds going over, we should be able to run the AC and pump juice back into the batteries at the same time. And then at night, when it's just running just off batteries, then hopefully that excess will be enough to fill those batteries back up, which we haven't done any full, like, I can't do it right now because it's just too hot. The air conditioners are run too much. We're using almost 25 to 30 kilowatt hours a day because the ACs run so much. I do want to, the rest of the year, see how far and long we can go off grid without being plugged into shore power. And we're going to be moving soon, and the RV is basically going to be facing the other direction. We're going to get more sun earlier in the morning, and I think more sun throughout the day. So we're going to do more tests and let you know how those are going. So that's how our solar panels are doing. I'm going to leave links for both these solar panels that we're using up here, and links for the videos of both install videos in case you're interested and you're new to the channel. If you are new, thanks for coming along. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more information about solar, RV life, off-grid, trucks, travel, towing, all that jazz. And thank you guys that come back every week and watch videos and leave positive comments and feedback. If you have any questions, leave them down in the description or below. Hopefully that answers most of the questions about how this has been performing. But we'll do more of these. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and give this video a big thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it because we appreciate you guys. And hopefully we'll see you guys next week.